Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Whatever time it is, wherever you are, it is right now. You're right here. My name is Manuel, and it's my pleasure to welcome you. Today is day 36 of the show, and I have to congratulate you for making the best decision of the day to spend some time with me. Let's get started. All right, so let's talk about something that should bother every sane American. Recently, and by recently I mean this weekend, a group calling itself Columbia University Apartheid Divest, that's the full name, posted in Farsi on X the words "Death to America." Let that sink in. They didn't post "Ceasefire now." They didn't post "Peace in the Middle East." They didn't post "Protect innocent lives." No. They posted "Death to America." Now, to be fair, Columbia University has said this group is not officially recognized. All right, no problem. But that's a bureaucratic distinction. Because the truth is, Columbia University Apartheid Divest, CUAD, was formed as a coalition of student organizations at Columbia University during the anti-Israel protests after the October 7th attack. That's the simple background. A coalition on campus, activist, loud, and highly visible. And now the slogan is "Death to America." And I'm just supposed to pretend it's a nuanced political discourse? Come on, give me a break. Now, before anybody tries to twist my words, because you know how that goes, let me say this as I've said numerous times before. I support freedom of speech without reservation, even for these jerks, even for people who hate our country. That's the price of the First Amendment. That's the cost of a republic that actually believes in liberty. Some people say ugly things, and the rest of us sometimes, unfortunately, have to hear it. That's America. But here's the difference. Supporting your constitutional right to speak does not mean I owe you any respect for what you say. And when people standing on American soil, some of who aren't even Americans themselves, declare "Death to America," I reserve the right to call it what it is. At best, it's ingratitude. But really, all it is ideological rot. A dung heap pretending to be ideology. Now, some will say, oh, they're just angry about U.S. foreign policy. Really? Because anger at policy doesn't usually translate to chanting for the destruction of your own country. That's not dissent. That's not reform. And that's not holding power accountable. That's hatred towards the entire culture and legal structure that allows you to protest in the first place. But you know what bothers me the most? This isn't an isolated thing. We've watched for years now as the modern left drifts from "give peace a chance" to something far darker, far more sinister. It used to be anti-war protests with guitars and candles. Now, it's mobs occupying buildings. Now, it's slogans like "Death to America." Now, it's excusing terror. And we're told this is progress? Oh, no. This isn't progressive. This is regressive. There's a word that gets thrown around constantly in left-wing activism: intersectionality. The idea that all oppressed groups form one grand coalition. And by oppressed, I mean whatever the flavor of the month is for them. Fine. Okay. But here's the image I saw recently that tells you everything. At a protest, American feminist women who claim to champion, among other things, LGBTQ rights, were holding posters honoring Iran's late supreme leader, the Ayatollah Khamenei. Think about that for a moment. The regime that imprisons women for showing their hair. The regime that executes homosexuals. The regime that crushes dissent with brutality. And somehow, these self-described feminists are holding up Khamenei's image. What the hell, man? That's not solidarity. That's ideological confusion so severe it borders on parody. At least, I hope it's confusion, because those who actually understand what they're doing and still do it, that's more terrifying. You see, this is what happens when you stop being for something and become defined only by what you're against. At this point, it seems to me they mostly are not for women. They mostly are not for LGBTQ people. They're not even really for Palestinians. They are against the West. They're against America. They're against liberal democracy itself. They've convinced themselves that if America opposes something, they must support it, even if that something that America is against is a brutally anti-female, anti-homosexual theocratic dictatorship. That is not moral clarity. That's just embracing whatever America is against and pretending it's sincere activism. And here's where we need to be brutally honest. When rhetoric escalates to death to America, we are no longer in a policy disagreement. We're in a cultural and ideological battle over whether this country is fundamentally good or fundamentally evil. Now, again, and I mean this sincerely, they have the right to say it. That's the strength of this country. But allow me to leave you with a lesson. And as you know, my daily goal is to be useful. When someone tells you who they are, believe them, but also study the incentive structure. What's the incentive that creates a coalition of American students who choose slogans that come straight from authoritarian regimes? The answer is actually quite simple: status within their tribe. In certain activist circles, the more radically anti-American you are, the more credibility you gain. The slogan, it isn't the point. The applause is the point. And that's the reframe. This isn't about foreign policy. It's about identity. It's about twisted virtue signaling. And, if I might put it more bluntly, it's about them proving to their fellow extremists that they're one of the good white people because they hate America more than anyone else. My God. Look, once a movement becomes about status instead of solutions, it always radicalizes. Every time. So, what is the solution? The solution isn't censorship. And the solution definitely isn't panic on our part. The solution is clarity. Clarity about what America is. Clarity about what we stand for. Clarity about the difference between dissent and destruction. Because if the loudest voices are chanting death to America, then the rest of us better be prepared without hesitation to firmly say no. We choose liberty. We choose constitutional order. We choose the country that allows even its critics to speak freely. And if that makes us unfashionable in their activist circles, so be it. History tends to side with the civilization that believes in itself. All right. That's enough for today. We'll continue tomorrow. And as always, be useful.